Hey, I'm Marina.
And I'm Emily.
And I've seen everything in the Sex and the City empire 10,000 times.
And I'm starting fresh.
So I'll be woman-splaining the show.
And I'm along for the ride.
But there's a twist. We are starting with And Just Like That and working our way back to the beginning.
So in other words, we're watching it backwards and in high heels.
This is City and the Sex. That was a turkey. That was a turkey.
This is a fun improv exercise that we've stumbled onto.
Making a vaguely sexual sound.
Any sound can be sexual if you have enough imagination.
All of them, yes, indeed. Mm-hmm. That's the lesson here, kids. Improv is everywhere.
Don't encourage them.
Don't. Enough people do improv. We don't need more people doing improv.
Exactly. It's like an invasive species at this point.
Well, we're here not to improv, hopefully, not to raise the next generation of improvisers, hopefully, but we are here to discuss Sex and the City Season 6, Episode 18. This is a VFE, a very famous episode.
Mm-hmm.
The things that transpire in this episode have lasting ramifications, and I'm sure at least one of the events that happens here you have seen as a meme, probably.
I have.
Okay, great. So
I gotta come clean when I know something before we see. I am aware.
I mean, it is, as I said, a very famous episode.
I know of the scene, and then after this character is introduced of said scene, like a few minutes went by, and then I had a real hilarious laugh out loud epiphany when it occurred. We went out loud in the living room. That's why it's called Splat.
Yeah, we'll get into the Splat culture of it all because, ew, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Alluding to that, my one word for this episode was death, birth, life.
Those are 3 words that make up the perfect one word for this episode.
I really was
well
proud
done,
of that.
honestly.
Thank you. I take a bow.
Shoot, you leave me with no choice here. I'll make my one word just page 6.
Yeah,
It's a lot of New York Post culture.
She gets a lot of references this episode, that page 6. Let me tell you. Never been more popular.
She's the girl of the moment.
The girl, the moment. Well, let's crack into it.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say crack.
Oh, that was bad. Let's get into it.
It's such a long episode.
So, Sex and the City, Season 6, Episode 18, Splat exclamation point. Oof. We open on Carrie in a terrible hat. Hat watch. And we start on this line that was like, when you live in New York, and it was funny because I paused right here to write that down, when you live in New York. My boyfriend was watching, not watching, and he goes, oh God, what is she going to say? And then I press play, and she says, when you live in New York, it can take all your energy to stay in vogue. And he was like, God, I'm already annoyed.
Oh, man.
Like, well, strap in.
Yeah, exactly. Already off to the races.
And here, Carrie meets up for a lunch with Enid, who you know from And Just Like That.
Yes, I love having this, like, oh, it's this character feeling, but in reverse is so chaotic. Because it is the same thing of And Just Like That. Of, oh, I remember Enid from, time past from our nostalgia. And I'm sitting here being like, oh, it's this strange woman. My overall take with Enid is I am afraid of her and I think she could commit a murder.
Yes. Well, that's the correct take to have.
Okay.
Because I feel like That's what they're trying to impress. My takeaway from Enid is that she's a deeply unpleasant person to hang out with.
Yeah.
Because she had the thing about like only freaks over 40 wear wedding dresses in like the first movie with Carrie. And now we're here. And some of the things that she says to Carrie, I'm like,
shock.
Christ.
Mouth agape.
So Enid invites Carrie to her party to celebrate these two hoity-toity documentary types. Sure. And but on two conditions. Carrie has to bring Petrovsky, and Petrovsky has to bring a date for Enid, which I say what Carrie says, which is if you knew Petrovsky, you knew he wouldn't bring a date. Not that he wouldn't out of principle, but that like, so you want to fuck a vampire? Do you know what I mean? Like,
right. Is
what
this actually the
do you think
social
are coming?
circle? Like, as they're going to discuss, it's because of his age that Enid is like going after, because she's hoping that Petrovsky knows other people in their age group that she can date.
Right.
But to Carrie's point, you don't actually know what this person is like, and he is an alien. Do you want to date an alien?
Yeah, are you sure? As we'll learn, she does. Okay. So, I do love that she, asks Carrie to bring the date, and then she like drops so serious, and she's like, "Please never mention this conversation to anyone at Condé Nast."
So official.
I chortled. And then she goes to like order the Dorado fish, and then the waiter's like, "Well, that's usually for two." And then she's like, "God, you have to be a couple to even order lunch in this town." And then Carrie's like, "Well, I'll get the Dorado." And she's like, "If it's a pretty Dorado, don't do it. I can have crab cakes."
She unfortunately has every line be a banger in this scene.
Banger after banger.
Yeah.
Well, and then she ends on the crown prince of bangers, which is, "I got you a job, you get me a man."
Yeah, look, I hate Enid, but also I wish we had more of Enid, because she is the sinister energy that we need. And Carrie becomes her most sympathetic and most like heroine like when she's battling the dark forces that is of Enid.
Yeah. It is like, because Enid, it's like Carrie, we know, lives in a fantasy, which will become clear in this episode if it wasn't already. So like Enid is just so cynical and so real.
Yeah.
But like in still like, and yes, she's sinister, but in like a Disney villain way.
Yes.
That like is still enjoyable.
Exactly.
It's not just like, we joke that she's cruel, and she is, but it is in a Disney villain way where it's fun.
Yes, exactly.
We all want
she is the like character actor Disney villain in the Disney park who is rude to you and you record a video of it because you love it.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, please roast me even more.
Yeah.
We cut to Carrie and Petrovsky prepping for their dinner party where he is going to meet all of her friends. It's going to be all the couples together. He's hired waiters, which I'd like that cash flow.
Yeah. As an artist.
Again, he's like literally Andy Warhol, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Carrie's like, "Do you have any single male friends?" And he has some sort of retort that's like, "Oh, moving on from me already."
Yeah, it's cute.
Great. He's like, "Yeah, like I have this food critic that I can hook her up with." And then Carrie's like, "For once, like, all my friends are taken." And then she like pauses and is like, "Wow. Stand up, Carrie." And brief appearance. And that's rude, frankly speaking. I would say that's rude. Call out your friends like that and be like, "Wow, they're actually all taken. What freaks."
It's like they're catching a stray for no reason.
Yeah. And then Petrovsky explains that he's going to Paris. He's going to Paris right away. He's not sure when he's coming back. And Carrie's kind of taken aback by this news, being like, he's going to leave me to go to Paris. Mm-hmm. But then he says, "I'm hoping you will come with me." And she's like, "Oh, like to visit on like a weekend?" And he's like, "No, to like basically live there with me." Mm-hmm. And she's like, "That offer was foreign to me." God. You're going to move to Paris with him and you're still calling him a foreigner? Like, come on now.
She's never gonna get past this. It's so funny. It's so funny that we're still doing this joke. It's
like 8 episodes into their relationship, we're still doing puns on foreign. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we get to the dinner party. A historic scene.
When the minute you said that it was coming, I don't know if you heard, or maybe it'll be picked up and Tori will leave it. I just like giggled quietly to myself because I'm so excited. I'm so excited for them to talk about this dinner scene.
This is my problem with it. If Petrovsky is an alien assessing the contemporary woman, and she brings all her contemporary gal pals who are just kind of as like of her ilk as she is, wouldn't he be enthralled by them as opposed to like mildly confused?
That's, I didn't think of it that way. And that is a really excellent point, because this goes back to our constant of like, what is the appeal of Carrie to Petrovsky?
Right.
He finds her funny and amusing and interesting. And yet the rest of them are like shallow and uninteresting. So what is the line? Because they don't, we're going to get to it, and most of my notes are like, were they all raised in a barn? What's happening? But none of them are necessarily acting that different than she does sometimes. So
right.
He just, in the previous episode, grabbed the New York Magazine column.
Yeah.
And read her article about like, what 69ing? Huh? What's up with that? So like, he thinks that's funny. So that's an excellent point, that maybe like, this was a setup for them to be super awkward, and then suddenly he bursts out laughing because he thinks Samantha's super funny or something. That actually is a really good point. They're just like, why is he put off by this?
That's my one plot hole, is that exactly. And to your point, like when she meets his friends, he's like, oh, I hate these people. All they talk about is art and it's boring as fuck. And then her friends come with their like lively talk, and he's kind of just like lost at sea. I'll give him this, and I'll say maybe it was just like too much data overload.
Yeah.
Because
they do ask and say crazy things in the dinner scene, so fair.
We open with Samantha saying, I think my maid is using my vibrator.
All right. Let's just get this out of the way for the first part. They're trying to make a point. They, as writers, need to make a point about how the friends are a certain way, and they're not in the like classy intellectual European way that he and his friends are. They're gonna hammer this home really hard, so people are gonna like dial up to 11 with this. But crazy thing to what Samantha like
it's like later on when Samantha's bit is done, and then Steve like tries to connect and is like, oh, you have a piano. And then he's like, yeah. And then he's like, do you know any Billy Joel? And he's like, who dat? That makes sense to me.
Yes.
That's like logical why Petrovsky might be a little lost, because like Billy Joel is certainly not his speed. Yes. But like Samantha acting crazy should be endearing. My favorite moment in this whole scene is when Samantha says, I think my maid is using my vibrator. And Smith chuckles like to himself, like into his own plate. Like, and it cuts to him for like a fraction. And it's like, that says it. Like, everybody knows she's crazy. But we love that. Right? Yeah. He knows she's, to your words, showing her barn behavior.
Yeah.
But he loves it when she goes on. Well, I don't know, maybe in the other republics people share, but in America, which is like Fox News classic.
Right, again, because we got to be America in the scene so he can be Europe. I get it.
By that point, though, everyone at the table is like laughing and like kind of having fun. And then I think Stanford makes the pun that's like, so long as it's not breaking and vibrating. Like, that's funny. That's cute.
Petrovsky is the outsider, as like Mr. Fuddy-Duddy, who's not like following the conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And then Charlotte's like, oh, so why don't you talk about your exhibition? And like Carrie steps in, and it's like, it's large scale light installations with video and audio. And I'm like, girl, you don't know what half of those words mean.
Yeah, right.
But clearly he doesn't want to talk about it. And then Harry is like, what is it with Paris? Their toilet paper's so weird.
I don't know what this means either.
I paused the TV and I looked at my boyfriend and we looked at each other and we were like, the toilet paper is weird. Maybe because it's only like single ply.
This just cannot be this known a thing that is like a airline food. What's up with that kind of joke? Like he says this as if we all know what's going on and everyone kind of like murmurs in agreement. And I don't understand. We have to do the America versus Europe thing. So MPK also invents a beef between New York and Paris.
Over toilet paper?
Yeah, and then when he stands up for Paris, they're all like, come on, we're New Yorkers. Of course. And it's like, and he hits the accent super hard. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, what is this? This beef doesn't exist. And then also this toilet paper thing doesn't exist. What are we talking about?
Yeah, I do think it's so aggressive when Petrovsky's like, Paris is the best city in the world. And Steve basically responds with, I'm walking here. Like, it's like,
he goes, hey, bada bing.
Bada bing. No, New York. You're talking to New Yorkers. And obviously they're like laughing. You know, it's not like aggressive. But I was kind of like, what? Over toilet paper? What's happening? But here he drops the bomb. You know, you'll see Carrie because she's coming to live with me in Paris. And everyone's like, what? And Carrie's like, oh, well, we're talking about it. Smooth.
Mm-hmm. I mean, she's in a weird position. That was a weird...
He put her in a weird position.
Yeah. I just feel like he is completely steamrolling her in a lot of these conversations. And I feel like this is the first of that, of just sort of like, oh yeah, no, it's like, it really puts her on the spot. And also he can't seem to comprehend that she might not be excited immediately about this. You know what I mean?
This is where I'd like to point out that we are 3 episodes to the end of the show.
Mm.
We know that Schmister, what do we call him? Sister Pig is looming.
Uh-huh.
So much like our favorite Dr. Robert Leeds, somebody's going to have to take a turn for the worse.
Yeah.
And they've got to do it pretty quick.
Yeah.
And I feel like we see that bubble here. I feel like they were trying to warm us up last episode when he refused to see her friends. But as we know, that was not a crime.
We needed maybe like 2 more beats of that.
And now he's just like ready to leave New York and move on and go to Paris and like wipe away everything.
Everything. And then anytime Carrie shows hesitation, he's just like, I don't get it. Anyway, when we move to Paris, this is what you'll be doing. It's like he's a robot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Strange. Mm. But as we said, everybody's stunned. The girls like go off to tour the apartment, but really like bully Carrie. And she admits, you know, he like spraying this on me. And they just kind of go in a circle of questions like, well, what does that mean for your job? How long are you moving? Where are you going to live? Like all the, you know, the entourage of questions. Mm-hmm. And Carrie's kind of like, I don't know. You know, I'm still digesting this news. I'm still digesting this past dinner, you know. Stand up, mm-hmm. Carrie. She's back. And then Stanford comes in and says, ladies, time's up. I can only pretend to be one of the boys for so long. Okay. And then they all laugh. And then the scene ends. I'm like, what is with them bullying this gay man? Let this gay man live.
Yeah, he doesn't laugh with them, which makes it sad. You're like,
it makes it worse.
I thought you were in on that joke, but he just looks sad.
Terrible.
Nothing but L's for Stan.
Nothing but L's for Stanny. Just a slap in the face. So then Carrie and Petrovsky talk post-dinner, and she's kind of like, how would this work? And he's like, you know, where would I live? Would I get my own apartment? And he's like, no, you'll live with me. And then she's like, what about my job? What about my cell phone? Would it work there? Dumb bitch.
Wow. Get her.
This episode makes me incensed.
It has the energy of a bomb about to go off, so I feel you.
Yeah, it's like this whole episode is just like a ticking bomb the entire time of mania.
Yeah.
But then she asks, you know, what about my apartment in New York? Like, would I have to sell that? You know, and he basically offers to pay for like her apartment for the whole year, which is crazy. Mm-hmm. And then he ends on the thought, I have plenty of money, not plenty of Carrie Bradshaw, which sold her on the whole Paris thing.
Mm-hmm. That was the line.
So then we cut to the girls at brunch. We open on Carrie just being like, and I've always wanted to learn French.
Okay.
That's not the reason you're going, but sure.
Yeah. All right.
All right. If I was there, I would just drill in on that. I'd be like,
yeah.
When was the last time I saw you pick up a book that was not a magazine? Never.
When was the last time you spoke about your foreign boyfriend and didn't use the word foreign?
Yeah, when you fix that, then you could talk to me about learning
French. Yeah.
And then she's like, and I've always wanted to drink wine before noon.
As if they don't currently.
As if that's a problem. Exactly. Bye. Samantha is in the craziest outfit we've seen.
Is she wearing a durag?
She's like, no, I don't know if it's necessarily a
What's
durag.
that?
It's like a head wrap, but then with like a page boy hat on top, hat watch, with like a cheetah print shirt. It's all very strange. I hope it's not a durag. I pray to God it's not a durag.
I am praying it is not. Nobody, look it up. I don't know.
Look it up. Tell us. Let's vote. Let's have a vote. Because it didn't strike me as a durag when I saw it, but then you just said durag right now, and it put the fear of God in me that it might be a durag. Given the afro we just saw, so I don't know, but I hope not.
Okay. Because that did distract me for a lot of the scenes, so let's carry on with the recap so you can remind me what was happening, because I did zone out a little bit to be like, is that what I think it is?
I definitely zoned out as well because the hat is just so strange, and I was like, what is going on? And like the hat is a similar color with the shirt, but not also cheetah
but not the
print.
same.
Yeah, it's an L for Samantha, unfortunately. So they start like talking more about it. Charlotte's like, well, do you think you'll get married? Of course, on her marriage train. And Carrie's like, I don't know. And then Miranda's really pushing in about like, what about your job? Your job is about being in New York. And Carrie's like, I don't know, but this is the time when people should be excited for me. Stop killing the romance with all your questions. And then she's like, I've always been happy for my friends. Maybe my friends should be happy for me. And I just want to rewind to like 2 episodes ago when Miranda moved to Brooklyn and she was like, well, your life's ending. Bye.
Get her. Oh my God. I was like, it's coming. Marina's not going to let her have this. That line is shameless.
Yeah, you've been happy. I would be willing to say most of the time. And a lot of the time, you've been a judgmental ass bitch, okay?
Yeah.
Rude and makes fun of people and does a little stand-up routine about people in the face of their tragic life choices.
Yeah.
So, no, I'm not happy for you.
No, we're not going to just be like, oh my God, Carrie, because like, do not pretend you've done that for anyone at this table. Anyone, literally, period.
Anyone. God. I'm like, this, if I worked in cable news still to this day, this is where I would rack like a 20 clip soundbite montage of all the times that she's been an absolute rude asshole to somebody on this show because of their life choices. Like, I'd just be like, bah, 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 bah. You know what I mean? Because like, yeah, you don't get to claim that you've always been happy for your friends. Sorry.
No. A wild thing to say.
Brooklyn never forgets.
Brooklyn never forgets.
And then there's kind of an awkward silence after she has her whole like rampage about it. And then Samantha's like, well, does anyone want to talk about cancer? Anybody? And then the scene ends.
And we're out of there. I mean, Jesus.
These are your friends.
It's like, man, it's such a frustrating thing. I really sympathize with her friends in this situation because it's like, you absolutely need time to be like, hey, have you thought about these things? But Carrie and Petrovsky have given them no time. Like, this is happening, tomorrow, basically. It's just like the train has left the station. So, like, they kind of don't have time to do this delicately. They have to just come out and be like, have you thought of these things? Because you have just made a gigantic decision and, like, have not thought it through. I'm, like, totally on her friend's side for asking the questions.
And, Carrie has a penchant for being delusional. So if I was her friend, I too would try to say something, you know?
Yeah.
It's just tough because you can never break the seal on a delusional person.
Yeah.
Let that be a lesson. That's another Marina wise tip. You can never break the seal on a delusional person. Unfortunately, they have to pop that bubble themselves. So then we cut to Carrie columning. She's pissed. She's like...
Angry columning.
Angry
clacking on the keyboard.
She's like, many say, like, the unexamined life is, like, one to keep in mind, but maybe it's time to stop the questioning. And then it has, like, a question mark, and then she changes it to a period, which, like, grammatically makes
Doesn't
no
make
sense.
any sense. But she's on a roll.
Mad.
She's like, maybe if you're an ugly butt face, you won't ask questions to your friend at brunch when they are having a good time.
Yeah, it's very Burn Book where it's like, this fugly slut.
Yeah.
And then, like, puts her own picture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so if I read that column, I'd be like, oh, we're never getting her back.
Yeah.
I'd be like, she's gone.
She's okay.
I also love when she's like, are all these lunches with your friends all girl talk and no girl action?
Friends are stupid, and so is brunch.
Friends make you think, and I want Paris.
It's funny because, I'll give it this. There's, like, a half-truth in what she's saying in describing her life as, like, kind of stagnant because it's a TV show. But, like, in real life, people sometimes do this. I'm gonna keep my life the same, and so I'm also gonna keep my friend's life the same and be kind of sourpuss when they have life changes because, like, I don't want them to change. Unfortunately, that does not apply at all to what is actually happening.
Well, what we're about to see is that this choice is triggered by trauma.
Okay.
We're back to being a mental health podcast. This choice is triggered by trauma. Okay?
Yeah, okay.
We'll get into it.
Okay.
You are correct in what you've just said in a normal situation. Unfortunately,
that's not what's going on here.
Not what's going on here. So then we cut to Charlotte and Harry at home watching a movie. And Carrie has this voiceover that's like, in some relationships, there are some questions you should never ask. And then Harry's like, aren't we getting a little chunky? Which, it's amazing to me that Charlotte would think he was talking about her.
I know.
Like,
it's funny, goofy though, but that is such a that's such a funny thing to imagine that he just said to her.
After like the Harry we've spent, several episodes, like seasons with at this point, like LOL. But I love the way he's like, I'm talking about the dog.
I'm walking here.
So Charlotte goes and weighs the dog and finds that the dog is 4 pounds heavier than normal. So she goes to the pet store to buy diet food. We enter a little bit of a slight problematic jar conversation where she's like, my dog is fat. And the guy's like, she's not fat. And she's like, you're right. My dog is full figured. Okay. And then he's like, no, your dog is pregnant.
I mean, on the one hand, I'm relieved it's this and not a plot about dieting the dog.
You know what? And just like that would go there.
Exactly. On the other hand, one of the few times we have like consequences of something in the episode after in a way that doesn't relate to Carrie is the dog getting gangbanged in the last episode, because I did not enjoy that and I didn't want to think about that again.
And yet I'm here.
And yet we're
stuck,
here.
thinking about it. If this TV show is told from the perspective of a dog, this is us tragedy. This is, you know what I mean?
A really dark drama.
This is like a harrowing Rosemary's Baby for this dog right now. Like, we are laughing like dog period, gang bang, mutt babies. This dog
has been through a lot.
Has been through too much.
I'm just going to go back to when she won the competition and was very happy.
And focus on that. So then we cut to Charlotte aggressively cleaning the tub. I do love this scene. Yeah. That's like a soap opera tragedy about like if a woman and her teen daughter gets pregnant, but it's directed at the dog. I do like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that she's like angry and then she's like, everyone around me gets pregnant except for me. And
it's one of those completely logical responses that is so real.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
I would also be like, oh my God, this dog. Like, it's so funny and silly. And like, yes, I would work this way.
And then I love when the dog prances in and she like takes a deep breath. And then she's like, Elizabeth? And like doesn't even turn to look at her. She's just like, Elizabeth, mommy can't look at you right now.
And then the dog leaves. She like understands.
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
This is good. This is TV.
Then we cut to Carrie buying Rush Hour French. And she's like, Miranda just doesn't like Petrovsky. And she's with Samantha, who's wearing like, I think one of the most unflattering wigs ever. Mm-mm. She does have a good retort though, where she's like, we're selfish bitches who want you in New York.
Yeah.
And, you know, Carrie's like, I mean, he is perfect, isn't he? And Samantha's like, I mean, he's a little arrogant, but he's got the looks to back it up. And Carrie keeps going on a whole tirade about Miranda, being like, she didn't even ask him one question. And Samantha's like, why do you care? And ultimately, Carrie lands on, you know, like, Miranda has a point. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do about my job and, like, all these different things. And Samantha offers the encouraging but enabling advice of, well, it's up to you to make it what you want it to be.
I really like this scene because I honestly really enjoyed this episode. I just feel like everyone responded to the news and talks to Carrie so in their lane and so in character. You know, it's like kind of a loose enabling blank check advice that I think like totally makes sense for Samantha. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Too bad Carrie won't pay attention to that advice. So Carrie's listening to the French lessons and she's like, questions were filling my head, but at least they were in French. Great. So Carrie's at home with Petrovsky, you know, putting in her earrings, and he's like, are you ready? And she's like, are you good to go? And she's like, oh, I'm just putting in my earrings. And he's like, no, like for Paris. And I actually really do like this scene because they answer the questions that we all have, which is like, you know, why can't you just do long distance? Because I don't believe in long distance. Mm-hmm. Great. You know what I mean? Like, what if I like came in a month and like hung out for a month and then came back? Like, well, I have to go tomorrow. So it has to be a choice that has to happen now. I feel like this episode does do a good job of like not leaving like pedantic nitpicky plot holes for people to be like, well, why couldn't they just do long distance? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They do a good job of answering all the questions. You get it?
Yeah, and I don't and I also I don't feel like it's like contrived. Like I totally believe that Petrovsky's like, no, this is it. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like we're kind of like forcing a conflict. I just want you to know, anytime I'm throwing like compliments at the show. I'm also somehow secretly shading And Just Like That because like it's just the antithesis. It just does everything right that And Just Like That does wrong.
Yeah, And Just Like That like mounts questions with every scene.
Yeah.
Like we have like 8 more questions that we didn't have. And this episode like has a lot of questions, but then ultimately like answers all of them for us.
Yeah.
In a way that like is still like open-ended and fun, but also like doesn't leave me being like, wait, why couldn't they just zoom? It didn't exist. Okay. We do end on the pun. Voulez-vous un ultimatum? Girl. Then we cut to Enid's party, which we will cut to several times again, and is one of the most unhinged things anyone could ever attend. So Carrie shows up with Petrovsky and this guy, Martin, who's a food critic for Bon Appetit, who's played by Wallace Shawn, who is a very charming man. Let me just say that. Like, this guy is always charming, but in Enid's words, he's a hobbit. Sad. Maybe that's why you're single. Who said that? And then we get introduced to Kristen Johnson. I don't even know her character name because it doesn't matter. It's Kristen Johnson, who's like a former it girl, sort of. And I love that she's like, oh my God, is that fucking Carrie Bradshaw? Like out loud in the middle of this party.
Yeah.
And Kristen Johnson just has this like booming voice.
Yeah.
That is like so unique to her. She uses it so well this episode, like by being like a little too loud.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
God. Mm-hmm. She's my cocaine.
She is your cocaine. I see.
Yes. I'm getting high watching this episode with her in
it. Understandable.
So then we get to Miranda at home with Steve, and she's ranting about Petrovsky because obviously she doesn't like him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She's like, he's so pretentious, and Steve's like, we're still talking about him. And she's like, you know what makes me upset? How Carrie is when she's around him. Like, she barely smiled at any of our jokes or, you know, interacted. And Steve brings up the good point, which is like, you know, you never think anyone is good enough for your friends. You didn't think I was good enough. And that is true.
That is a true assessment from what I've seen.
Highly true. But then we have this really tender moment where they turn the lights off and they big spoon, little spoon. And Steve is like, you know, if she moves away, it's going to be okay. Like, you're going to visit, you're going to talk. You're still going to be like friends. And Miranda's in her delusional bag because she's like, you know what? I don't think she's going to go. She has too much here.
Yeah. Sad. I think delusion is a good way to put it, of just like very wishful thinking on Miranda's part. A misread. We cut back to Enid's party and we enter on this conversation, which is New York is actually rivaling England for the best cheddar. Fact check? Yeah. Can someone first? We have a lot of questions that we need answered, and we need your help. What's that? What's up with that? I've never heard that before.
Okay. But I like the little moment here that Carrie has where she's like, I was on Enid's date and Enid was on mine. And we see Enid like chatting up Petrovsky and like being so into him. And I like how she turns and she's like, Carrie, I love this man. And Carrie's basically like, what are you doing?
Yeah, wait, hang on. I wrote this down because again with the Enid being like the Disney villain that like it's okay. So like they're sitting on the couch and she says, you know, something like, well, he's great. I didn't know he was so attentive, you know, because he like rushes off to get her a drink or something like that. And then she sighs to Carrie and says, and I quote, oh, Carrie, why aren't I with him? And Carrie understandably is shook and can only just respond with the literal truth, which is because I am. And Enid does the most terrifying thing in the situation, which is to not be shaken by that or ashamed of that and just be like, actually, I'm going to get mad at this. Yeah. And then like stands up and threatens. It's like, I goosebumps. I was like, this woman is bunko.
Like, Carrie will excuse herself to go to the bathroom, and I'm like, I don't know how you just didn't leave.
Yeah. Honey, we're going home.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
we have to go because,
Yeah.
like, she is a terror threat. No
Yeah.
fly list. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the speech that she gives where she's
Yeah.
like, it's not fair. He's my age. And
Yeah.
when you're a woman my age, it's a no man's land, literally, in that there's no men. It's a very small pool. It's not even a pool, it's a wading pool. And then she locks in on Carrie and she's like, why are you in my wading pool?
I'm terrified.
I'm fucking leaving.
I'm leaving. I'm like running to get it. I'm stumbling to get my things. I'm just like, we got to go home and we're never coming back.
I don't know how she's not the one who backs up and falls out the window. Let me put it that way, because that's what would happen to me. I'd be like, I gotta go, bye.
Yeah, just run out the window.
But as we said, she's like, okay, bye, and sends herself to the bathroom. And Kristen Johnson is in there doing cocaine. This is where this party gets a little weird for me because Kristen.
Oh, now it's getting weird?
Yeah, I know.
Now the weirdness is here?
Yeah, now it's weird because Kristen's like, I can't believe I like begged to get an invite to this party. And I'm like, how big is this party?
What is this?
Like, this is like a random documentary. It's not even like a movie star.
Yeah.
It's a party for two people who make documentaries.
Yeah. It's like fuddy-duddy New York pretentious art scene is happening. You know, it's like magazine person, documentarians, and it's the size of what, like 30 people wandering around this apartment eating hors d'oeuvres?
How did you even hear about this?
Yeah. How are you here? Party girl, like notorious party girl doing cocaine in the bathroom, like, I think you are lost. I think you thought this party was something else.
You're in the wrong room.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she's doing cocaine and she's like, I'm 40 years old. Can you believe it? Don't answer that.
Oh, dear.
This woman, a riot. And then she's like, to Carrie, she's like, I can't believe we're the only two single girls here. And if this were me, I'd be like, yeah, you're right. And I would just go
just
and
pass that line.
eat
Don't say
toilet.
anything. Don't say anything.
The fact that Carrie's like, actually, I'm here with someone. Carrie, read a fucking room, okay? You're a writer. You're supposed to be able to observe. Read a fucking room. This woman is unhinged. This is not the time to drill. And another woman just gave you a whole speech about how you're stealing older men from older women. Like, just pretend for 2 minutes and just be it's like the crazy cab driver thing that we all talk about, which is like when the cab driver starts talking about random stuff. Like, it's not the time to be like, well, actually, Hillary won the popular vote. Like, it's time to be like, right. No, it is crazy. Yeah, like, this is not the time to put your foot down.
Exactly. But you know she just can't help herself.
She can't.
She just
has to.
She can't. She's so excited. Like, she has to. Her relationship and her status of being in a relationship is so character defining for her that she can't let it go. Like, she has to be like, actually, I have a boyfriend. Because, like, that is her entire raison d'etre. To use French on her that she can't understand.
Voulez-vous raison d'etre. Carte blanche. Now I'm just saying all the French words I know. But, like, this woman is a walking cry for help.
Yeah.
And it just tells you, like, just debased. You know what I mean? Like, Carrie, fucking keep it to your fucking self, girl.
Yeah. Just
go home.
Have a shred of humanity. Just say, you know, wow, what a party. You leave that room, you grab your boyfriend, you go home.
And you bounce.
Kristen
Johnson, though, has the best response here, which is like, fuck you.
I think she probably had like another line and Kristen Johnson was like, no.
And I love that because it is real as fuck. Because that's what I would, if I was Kristen Johnson, that's what I would say.
She's saying every thought that has popped into her head. Like, that is her entire character from start to finish, is to just say out loud everything that comes into her head. And that is exactly what you think in response is, haha, fuck you.
Fuck you. Incredible. Then we cut to Charlotte scrubbing the carpet in her nightie violently. And she, Harry comes in. He's like, what are you doing? And she's like, well, I'm scrubbing the carpet because some people are too pregnant to keep it in. And I love how Harry's like, well, some people are giving birth in the bathroom. And
he's just the chillest guy.
Yeah, he's just so like chill.
Unfazed. And then Charlotte changes immediately from like the passive aggressiveness that just, baby, she just immediately goes into
and runs. We cut back to Carrie and Petrovsky at the party. And they're talking to the two documentarians, and they're like a wife and husband couple. And the husband's like, yeah, so we split our time between LA and Calcutta, but she hates LA, so she's never in LA. And then she's like, frozen yogurt is not a culture. And then they all laugh at that. Banger line. And then he's like, so I edit the movies in LA. And she's like, and I get the final Calcutta. And then they all laugh.
What a bunch of comedians these guys are.
Rough. Goes on for too long.
Great party. I'm so glad we're still here, Petrovsky. I'm so
I don't
glad.
know. Why isn't they still here? What is the payoff? So Carrie points out, like, well, they make it work and they live in 2 different countries. Why can't we do something like that? And he kind of puts this question to her, which is like, what do you want to come home to? Because he makes the point like, I don't want to be calling you. I want to wake up to you and see you and live life with you. So that's what I want to come home to. What do you want to come home to? But then Kristen Johnson comes in.
Here we go.
I'm just going to go through this. And
I want you to know the sirens are passing by outside.
Yeah,
in fitting fashion. They're setting the stage.
They heard. I'm just going to go through this. We will talk it through after.
Fair.
So Kristen Johnson bursts into the scene. She goes to Carrie. She's like, do you have a lighter? Carrie, in another read the room moment, is like, no, I don't smoke anymore. Go fuck yourself. Kristen pushes past her, goes to Wallace, Shawn, and Enid, who are like chatting. We get this little chuff text of him being like, and that's why I'm a huge fan of the pomegranate. Love. Kristen Johnson barrels her way over to him. She's like, do you have a light? And Enid's like, there's no smoking in here. You have to go outside. And she's like, there is no outside. We're in an apartment. And then she goes like, ooh, a candle. Goes over to a candle, lights a candle. She goes over to the window. She's like, how do you open this fucking thing? Like tries to crank open this window of this like clearly skyrise sort of apartment. Wallace Shawn goes over. He's like, could you keep it down? And then she's like, could you keep it down? And then she's like, when did everybody stop smoking? And when did everybody start pairing off? And she's like, New York used to be the most exciting city in the world. And now it's just smoking near an open window. And everybody's like raptured as she goes again on this like Shakespearean monologue. She goes, New York is over. O-V-E-R, over. No one's fun anymore. Where's all the fun? I'm so bored I could die. And then she trips on her Manolo that breaks, falls out of the window, taking the curtain with her, and dies.
If I just breathe,
yeah. Miranda alludes to it later in this episode, being like, are you making this decision because a woman fell out a window? And we kind of like gloss past that, but I would really like to drive that point home.
Yeah.
That Carrie was like, I'm an it girl. I don't want to be a single it girl. If I'm a single it girl, I'm going to die by falling out of a window. I'm going to move to Paris to be with Petrovsky. That's the only answer because I will not die alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dark.
It's
dark.
so... Oh my God. Okay. So first of all, Excellent monologue. I mean, if anyone is looking for an audition monologue, I mean, there it is. Secondly,
I would kill to see somebody do that in a freaking self-tape. Hi, I'm auditioning for the 8th grade version of Romeo and Juliet.
yeah.
I'm auditioning for Juliet. Where's all the fun anymore? Incredible. Incredible. Go on.
I think she is picture perfect. Like, I don't need less of her. I don't need more of her. She's exactly what she needs to be from start to finish. Like, right on the money. Mm-hmm. She comes in and immediately we see the mirror with Carrie.
Yeah, between Enid's monologue about if you're a single woman over 50, basically you might as well be dead.
Limited.
And then a woman over 40 literally dying.
Yeah.
Like, in one night, Carrie changes her whole life.
Yeah. Because
of a crazy situation she would never be in to begin with because she's a fucking square.
Yeah. This is not actually dark Carrie, right? This is not the road not traveled for Carrie. This is like dark Samantha. This is
exactly. Wow. Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
This is not your mirror.
Right. Exactly. When she falls out the window, there's like a moment of pause. I think they make a sound effect of some kind. I don't remember. But there's like a moment where like they're sure she's dead. And then the Carrie voiceover comes in being like, that was the first time Lexi ever left a party early. This woman is dead. I get that it's the writers being like, okay, we got to keep it light. But I'm like, this woman fell out of a skyscraper and hit the ground, which has probably got to be like one of the top most brutal deaths that you can imagine.
Yeah.
Which also, how does that window open that wide? Is that you tell me? Because did New York used to be like that? Because I'm on the 2nd floor and I can open my window by an inch.
An inch. Yeah. I don't. Maybe this was a safety thing that didn't exist at this time. I don't know. It's such a testament to this show too, but also how bananas the situation is that like this scene, if it played out in like 30 Rock, I wouldn't be thinking about these things and I would just think it's really funny, you know. And I'd be like, and then when Tina Fey says, and that is the first time that she left the party early or whatever, I just think it's funny.
You're right,
you know. But in this show where we're about to have super grounded scenes and super, you know, it's like I'm kind of still shook. You know, I can't like jump on the joke yet. I'm still shook. You know, I can't move that fast.
Yeah. And then they fake that they're going to give us a moment of peace, which is that like we then get this weird
music cue
with montage of like snowing in New York.
Yeah.
And Carrie's like, snow blanketed New York City. The city was silent. No questions. Only white noise.
Okay. Very odd. It's like, is that here to kind of like soften the blow of what just happened? But then why did you put like really sort of strange, cheerful guitar music over this?
I think it is to soften, for sure. I don't know what I would do instead, because it is like such a hard turn.
I think if they're going to set up all the jokes they're about to share, and we're going to get into that, I don't know if we need this. Like, I think we need to lean into the silly, maybe. Because I feel very Whiplash.
Or we lean into the grounded, which is like we just get to the funeral.
Yeah.
And then Carrie reveals she's going to Paris at the funeral instead of having that like dramatic turn to Petrovsky, you know? Yes. I think that might have worked better. I think if the window happened, we get that gasp, we get that dumb one-liner, and then we get like maybe a voiceover over some snow, but then we push into the funeral. That might have been a bit smoother in my opinion.
I like that.
But I think they wanted the dramatic, like she like turns her head to Petrovsky like, I'm ready for Paris. And he like does a full sitcom turn from the couch to like smile or whatever. I think they wanted that moment, which fine. Can we say though, he does the sitcom turn from reading the tabloid that describes her fucking death on the front.
It's Party Girl says her final goodnight.
devastating. So weird to have this like touching moment between Carrie Petrovsky and then this like violent tabloid cover.
Yeah.
Then we get another touching moment with Miranda and Steve like making snow angels with Brady. And you think like, okay, we're moving on from the death now.
Yeah.
But then they cut to Charlotte showing the puppies the snow for the first time. And when she picks them up out of the cardboard box with newspaper, there's the fucking tabloid cover and it says Splat. I wouldn't put it past Rupert Murdoch. I really wouldn't. But what gets me is when we get to the funeral scene, at first you don't see Charlotte. So I thought, oh, maybe Charlotte didn't know her. But then Charlotte shows up and is like, guys, we need to be like in mourning. We need to like respect the dead. And I'm like, you put her face under your dog's puppy's ass to shit on.
Pee.
So you shut the fuck up. And
Why
I'll
are
say
these
what I
people at the
say.
funeral if her death is such a punchline to them?
So strange. So I mean, it wouldn't be the first time they showed up to an event just to judge. But it is, to your point, such whiplash with all the tabloids and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like.
But anyway, we get to the funeral.
Then we get to the funeral. Carrie's voiceover being like, it was time to say goodbye to our snow angel, which I think is a reference to the fact that she did cocaine, which is gross because she's dead now.
God. I just don't know what to feel. I'm in shock the whole time. Mouth is on the floor.
I'm like, you're at this woman's funeral and you still just have to get a couple
Get a dig in to this pitiful, sad person. You have to like be making fun of her.
Well, because now Carrie feels like I'm not of her because I am going to Paris with Petrovsky. Right. So now I can bully this dead woman. So Carrie and Stanford walk in and Stanford's like, I can't believe I missed it. You have to tell me everything, her last words. I'm like, again, this is a dead person.
This
Whatever.
is so disgusting.
They meet up with Samantha, Miranda, and Charlotte. And Samantha's like, wow, this funeral's better than Fashion Week. And then Stanford's like, Marcus got us seats next to Hugh Jackman. Okay.
What's going on, Marina?
What's going on? I don't know.
Marina!
And then I think Miranda or Charlotte, I forget, one of them is like, man, she really was the it girls of the 80s. And then Samantha was like, I thought I was the it girl of the 80s. And they're like, well, it's your word against a dead woman, so I guess you win.
What is this all of a sudden It's Always Sunny Philadelphia? Like, everyone has just, like, taken a turn in their joke. Like, I'm just shocked the whole time. I'm shocked. I have nothing to say.
I'm just learning that Michael Patrick King cannot do a funeral. Like, I think you just cannot resist.
That's true. That is a through line here.
You can't resist his temptation to, like, insert puns and make it funny. And we all know that sometimes you want a funeral scene to be a little lighthearted, but, like, the man cannot do it. The man cannot do it.
Someone needs to sit him down and show him death at a funeral. You know what I mean? Like,
This. God. Samantha ends on like, well, with her death, it really is the end of an era. Carrie looks over and Enid is being escorted into the funeral with Martin. And then she says probably the meanest thing she's ever said.
Oh boy.
Where she's like, you know, single girls in New York over a certain age, nowhere to go but down. Which is like a double knife. It's like a down as in like falling out of a skyscraper and fucking dying. Or Enid dating a fucking hobbit like Wallace Shawn. So mean. So mean. I can't.
And I didn't even get that until just now. The double meaning about the girl falling out the window. And I'm shook all over again. Again, I'm relying on your recap here because my mind went blank a little bit, and I think I just like had an out of body, defibrillator. My heart restarted. I was like, "What did she just say?"
Isn't this show about being proud to be the single girl over a certain age? Like, it's crazy to me.
Pride and Prejudice. Imagine if, what's her friend's name? Charlotte comes to be like, "I'm marrying Mr. whatever the goofy man is, Mr. Collins." And Eliza's like, "Wow, nowhere to go but down if you turn 30. Imagine.
Yeah. Dark. And then we're going to get into a touching scene like between Carrie and Miranda where they really have it out. Yeah. And it's a great scene. We'll get into it in a minute. Yeah. But it was like hard for me to get into it with how like vitriolic this first scene is.
Yeah. Yeah.
With Carrie just like absolutely hammering down the single woman.
Yes. It's such a like exceptionally misogynistic kind of bent to it too. It's like vitriolic is a good word. It's like it's nastiness in a way that we like don't see often, and that's why it was like very stunning. It was just everyone took a level in nasty.
But then we learn that Carrie reveals to everybody, "I'm going to Paris." They're like, "What about your job?" She's like, "I quit." And they're like, "What do you mean you quit? Like, your column is everything." And she's like, "Stop. I'm happy. I'm going."
Whoosh, okay.
Which that's always good when you have to defend your choices by being like, "I'm happy."
Yeah. If you want to talk about like red flags from your friend perspective, it's just... everybody shut up. I'm happy, so you can't say anything.
Bad sign.
No. The inverse is also true. They don't say this, obviously, because she's not in Paris yet. But I feel like the inverse is also true, is when the friends are saying, "Well, at least she's happy." That's kind of code for, like, that's not good.
Bad sign. So then, post the funeral, Miranda and Carrie are kind of walking and talking, and they're like, "Oh, like, you want to grab something to eat?" Sure. And Miranda tries to level set with Carrie and is like, "I think you're making a mistake, especially quitting your job, because, that column is who you are." And Carrie's like, "No, it's not who I am. It's what I do." And Miranda's like, "Well, what are you going to do all day? Eat croissant," with the hard croissant pronunciation.
Croissant.
And she's like, "I don't understand why you have to give up, why you have to move away and give up your life." And Carrie's like, "The point you were making earlier, right?" Which is a very true point, which is like, I can't stay single for you. Like, everybody has moved on. Even Samantha. Okay, no need to dig, but she does. Even Samantha, has paired off. Like, I don't want to write about my life. I want to live my life. Miranda retorts, "You mean his life?" And Carrie kind of storms off, being like, "You know what? This is what I'm going to do, and you just have to accept it." And Miranda is like, "Carrie, I love you. Come on." And Carrie's like, "Just admit it. You don't like him." And Miranda's like, "You know what? I don't." And then Carrie's like, "Well, you don't have to go to Paris with him." And then Miranda's like, "You're living in a fantasy." And then we cut to like the most unhinged Coca-Cola commercial.
This is banana. If I didn't think anything else in this episode, if I thought we were going to finally end peacefully, boy, was I wrong. What?
Boy, you're wrong, yeah.
I actually did say out loud, "What?" And then the red just rolled.
And it's a rare occasion where they address that it's crazy and it's not enough.
Yeah.
Because basically Carrie shows up in a horse-drawn carriage being driven by Petrovsky through an untouched Central Park that's covered in snow. And she's like, "You know what? Maybe I was living in a fantasy, but I finally found a man who could make it a reality."
What's going on?
So much so that I didn't question how he was able to like get a horse in Central Park. Yeah. And that's how the episode ends. And I'm like, do you hear yourself?
Wait, say that again slower.
It's like the Arrested Development when the Bateman character gives the other guy the tape recorder to be
Oh,
like, why
yeah.
don't you
He's
tape record yourself and like listen back to it?
Yeah,
and he's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't hear what the problem is. Like, that's this scene where it's like, maybe I was living in a fantasy, but I finally found a man who could make it a reality. Like, ew, what? Because he's got
Right.
money?
Because he's got
Sad.
money. They're running from what looks like the area that's like where the Bethesda fountain is.
It's the
And then you go
promenade.
up those stairs and
Yes.
the Poets Walk with the
It's
statues.
the promenade. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're like
Which
running
is like
through
concrete.
that
Yeah.
on concrete, right? Which is like not safe for the horse, but also like, and then also no one's there. I mean,
And
just
also
like,
not where the horses go.
right, that's not, the horses are on the like road that cuts through the park. And this is
Loops,
like
yeah.
the promenade is like
Pedestrian
it's like
walkway.
pavement. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like with benches and all this, and they're like storming through at full gallop.
To go down the stairs to then smack into the Bethesda fountain. No, I mean,
Like
it
Crazy
makes
Taxi.
No sense. Like the whole thing makes no sense.
I also just now got a pitch for a great game. Crazy Taxi in New York. Except Horse and Carriage.
My thing is just like it's such whiplash. This woman dies. It's sad. We go to the funeral. It's all quips. We have this heartbreaking Miranda Carrie scene. You know, the thesis of this show, the thesis of their relationship, reality versus fantasy. And then we end on this like deranged fever dream. Here's the other thing I want to point out that now has tainted this scene for me. So this scene is a very famous scene, the Miranda Carrie square off. Okay. What are you going to do? Sit in Paris and eat croissant? Very famous line. Okay. Did it sound familiar to you at all?
Yes, it did.
Did it remind me something of And Just Like That?
Yes, it did. It reminded me of the scene in the bathroom of, I think it's the They Vitzva. And what are they? It's moving to, it's like going to see the show, right? Or something like, what is the Che Diaz?
LA. It's Che for the pilot.
Yes. Okay. For the pilot. Yeah. That is exactly where my brain went of, oh, we actually have had this exact thing before, the other way around.
Yes. That's intentional. It goes to the thing we've talked about a lot, which is that in And Just Like That, they flip Miranda and Carrie's personalities. Our conspiracy theory being that Sarah Jessica Parker doesn't want to be the crazy one anymore and wants to be the pragmatic one.
Right.
And so they thought they were being clever. Like, look how much Carrie has grown. She's now the Miranda being like, you can't live in a fantasy and run off to LA. What are you going to do? Sit in a theater and laugh? And Miranda, for the first time, is being romantic and spontaneous like Carrie was in this scene. When they put it in here, they were on Miranda's side because most people are on Miranda's side because you're like, Carrie, you're being crazy. Like, I understand what you're saying and it's true, but you're being crazy.
Yeah.
When they put it in And Just Like That, to me, it has a more sinister thread to it, which is like, now you're being crazy for like having this romantic turn and you shouldn't really be doing that. Even though you told me I shouldn't be doing it and I did it anyway and it worked out for me, but that's not okay for you, is how it feels, I guess, to me.
Yeah. And I don't buy that. Like, of what I've seen in her and Just Like That, I don't buy that. And from this, it's like my best character interpretation of why Carrie is stepping down on this isn't Carrie being a good friend or Carrie being mature. I don't think Carrie would ever support like such a huge romantic decision for someone when it's not her own. You know what I mean? Like,
yes, this is my point. And when it's Miranda's turn, she's like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
I can do it, but you can't do that.
You can't do it. Right.
Whereas in this scene, it makes sense because Miranda doesn't like change.
Right.
And that's something that is personal to her.
Yes.
And is true in
It's
Carrie.
like very consistent with her worldview and how she treats Carrie much more.
Right. And Carrie's putting her foot down about it, right? Like, and so it's nice in that way. It feels cathartic. Whereas in And Just Like That, it feels like, well, you can't have this. And Miranda's like, well, I guess I can because my character has changed.
Right. Exactly.
And that's the episode. A horse-drawn carriage through an untouched Central Park.
A crazy end to a crazy ride of this episode. I mean, for so many reasons, I do love this episode. Like, because it was so bananas. You know what I mean? That I was constantly, so much happens, and yet it also felt like it was 3 minutes long. We were just like cooking from thing to thing to thing. And there are things in it that are obviously like ugly, and then there are things that are funny, and it's just like there's so much going on. It's so crazy. This one is gonna like stay with me.
Yeah. Well, we end our podcast as we end all our podcasts with our high and our low, our rose and our thorn. Emily, what was your low of this episode? What was your diarrhea?
It's got to be the like evil little circle that we had outside the funeral.
Yeah.
Just like being nasty. That just whole interaction. I have no words.
Yeah. I think it's got to be that the dinner party was so weird. What was your high? What was your release the Kraken?
Honestly, I think the Miranda Carrie fight, because it's so good for all the reasons we talked about, and I love when they have a fight for completely like almost heavy-handed reasons, like so in character to a T. It's like I kind of don't need it to be complicated to it. It's like I kind of love that Miranda is there to be like, I don't like change, and then Carrie's coming here to be like, I'm in denial, but then also like you both see what they're coming from. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's delicious. I love it. I love when we have good meaty like fights like that. Like I kind of can't wait for that. We were sort of starved from that from it Just Like That. We kept talking about how they would like have a hint of a fight, and then by the end of the episode, they're like, "Oh, better, it's fine." Yeah. This is the good.
My high, no pun intended, has got to be Kristen Johnson falling out the window. Mm-hmm. It's one of those crazy things on paper where you're like, how does this work?
Yeah.
Why is this in an episode? Like we were complaining about the dog period an episode ago. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's like the same kind of thing where it's like, that's crazy to put in an episode, mm-hmm. but it works so well here.
Yes.
And
this is like just the right kind of absurdity.
And the monologue is just so real and like clear. And like, I think that's why to this day, it's a meme that outlives us all. Do you know what I mean? It's like, because it's still, it never, in a way, it can never die. You know, we are but humble observers of pain. And that's what this episode brought us. And in the next 2 episodes, we're going to get pain, which is the violence that Carrie commits against the French people. So we need a lot of emotional support for that before we get into that. So again, like, favorite, subscribe, 5-star, pray for us. We'll pray for you. This is a Christian podcast now. I am joking. And we'll see you on Wednesday. Bye.